Hey guys, it's Luke Humphrey here, and I know I promised some answers to some questions here, so I'm not going to do all of them. I'm just going to do one right now and then take some others as time goes on. I took a screenshot of all the ones I got from Facebook in the gram, so I have those and I'll use those for reference. Some of them probably not the best person to answer for you if you're dealing with some pretty serious injuries, as it sounded like a couple of you were. That's best left to your physical therapist, your doctor, your sports med person, whoever that might be. Probably shouldn't just take advice from somebody who knows only part of the situation. So I probably won't touch on those too much, but the training ones, I'm a good resource for. So with that, I'm going to take Brian Siddon's question. It actually came from our Facebook group, and I thought his question was intriguing, and I felt like there's probably a lot of people who are in that boat. So he essentially just wanted to know how to know if his 5K goal time was right, whether, he didn't know if he was going to be, if he picked up a time that was too fast, too slow, whatever the case is, right? So he just wants to know, is he in the ballpark for ability and choosing the right goal? So I think that's a great question. I think that there's probably a lot of people who aren't necessarily sure, and it is good to have that confidence that you're at least on the right path, right? To me, the easiest thing is to gauge your workouts. And so 5K workouts, I've written about this before, but you're talking about a 1-to-1 ratio, especially early on. So that's work to recovery ratio. So in my example, I've written down, so if you're doing 400s, let's say, and you're doing those at 2 minutes of 400, then your recovery time should be no longer than 2 minutes, right? So, depending on who you are, that might be a 400 jog, probably not, not a 400 jog, but you're doing a 400 in 2 minutes, you're probably talking about a 200 to 300 meter jog. So a lot of times when you're talking about 5K training, like it'd be half the distance, right? So if you're doing 400s, it might be 200 jogs, something like that. But you can really dial it in if you personalize the recovery times on that. So if you're doing a 400 jog or 400 interval in 2 minutes, 5K, that's your 5K pace, and then you need a 2 minute jog. That would be the slowest I would go. So is the 1-to-1 ratio. As you get faster and faster throughout the segment, that recovery time should probably actually come down a little bit. You might even get down to be doing those same 400 meter repeats in doing 1 minute jog recoveries in between. So that's one way to gauge it, right? So if you're able to tolerate that recovery and then hit the repeats, and you're able to average pretty close to what you want to run for the 5K throughout the workout, you're pretty good. You're in pretty good shape on that, right? You're in the ballpark at least. But if you find yourself able to tolerate that, but actually significantly get faster as the workout goes on, you might be on the slower side of your prediction. And the opposite would be true if the workout kind of gets slower as it goes on, right? So if you're doing say you're doing a 400 workout with a 200 jog, and your 200 jogs get slower and slower and your repeats get slower and slower, that you're probably a little aggressive on those on the 5K goal. That would be the easiest thing to dictate. There is a workout that I've done a couple times. I'm just not necessarily really a 5K person anymore, and I found out I read about this workout well after my 5K times were over as far as a professional. But I read about this in a book called Running Tough, and I thought it was a really good a test workout, right? So I think if I remember right, it was Bob Kennedy and Adam Goucher used to do this workout, and it'd be 10 times 500. So if you add that up, that's 5,000 meters, 5K, and they would take a 100-meter jog. And so then they would average their 500 times, and that would basically be their 5K pace that they would be shooting for the next race, right? And so they would do this a couple times. So you do this. You could probably do it early season. I don't know if it's necessarily an early season workout, but definitely if you want to do a testing point 4 to 6 weeks into a block, and then do it maybe a week, or not even a week, 5 to 10 days before your 5K race, you could do that, and then you would really know kind of where you're at with what you could run, and then you wouldn't even necessarily worry about hitting that pace. You'd start out definitely at your 5K pace that you had in your head, but you'd kind of let your effort take over and see where it ended up, and then you would just take those 500 times, add them up, and then that would basically give you what, in theory, what you could run for a 5K time. So that's one way. That's to me is really. I've done the 10 by 500. I actually did it with 200 jog recovery, just kind of feeling it out, and it worked pretty well. So again, maybe you do that mid-season, you do it with a 200 jog, and then get close to the race when you're tapering. You're just starting that taper, and you can do 10 by 500 with 100 jog, and add those 500s up and do it that way. But on that jog, that 100 jog, and I use that loosely because in that 100 could even be like a walk. But if you're doing a 500 and say, let's say 130, that 100 jog, or that 100 that you would do would only be 45 seconds to a minute, right? So it's going to be less than the time that you've done on the repeat. So just keep that in mind. It should still be time-wise less than what you have done for the repeat, right? So you don't want to just stand there and then casually walk over to the next 500 and start. You want to kind of keep it going pretty good. But that's what I would do. That's what I've done with my athletes in the past. Like I said, I've done that workout once, modified a little bit, and it seemed to go really well. And the 500 is actually a really good test because 400 is like, you can run a 400, right? And it's not necessarily anything, big, right? Like it seems like you can always gut out one more 400 if you have to, but that 500 takes you just a few seconds past that. And it's enough to really kind of stress the system just that much more to make it a little bit more significant of time run at that repeat. So I really like that level. So I would try that. But again, use your recoveries as your guide and how you're handling each of those specific 5K workouts, right? And so if you are a person who's hammering a little bit on the 5K repeats, but then your recoveries are suffering, really try to focus on that goal 5K pace for now, and then keep that recovery in check, and then see where you're at, and that'll give you a much better idea of whether or not you're ready to roll in that 5K pace. So hopefully that helps you. Let me know what you think, and I'll answer another question later this week. All right, have a great week. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.